There are reasons for tariffs. One good reasons would be to help a critical industry. Let's give an example. Let's just use steel as an example. China and other places could always make steel a lot cheaper than we make it. The question is, should we allow every single steel manufacturer to go out of business because other countries can make steel a lot cheaper? There are national security reasons why we would want to keep level of steel making know-how in the United States. And that reason is, of course, we have industries, space industries, a lot of industries that are dependent on that. And if there is some sort of a supply chain issue, whether manufactured or not, it materially affects the country. So there are reasons that things like certain products you would want to have some level of tariffs to equalize the field to make sure that at least the know-how within that critical industry remains in your country. You also could have tariffs on specific products to correct for what a foreign country does to make their products cheaper. Let's say that country subsidizes all of its rubber manufacturing, right? That means that in a market system, that particular country would have given an unfair advantage to manufacture, let's say, rubber or whatever in that country. And in so doing, takes away the actual essence of what free marketing is all about. So one could see marginal tariffs on products from countries that actually falsely make those prices cheaper than they normally would be. And another reason would be for social reasons. Let's say some other country in Europe decided to start slave labor, child labor, or take advantage of foreigners who come into, or immigrants who come into that land, force them into working, which inherently makes the prices of that product cheaper because the labor is small or non-existent. That's a reason to actually have a tariff as well. And then there is the regressive reason for having tariffs, and that is simply having tariffs as a sales tax to raise money for the Treasury. And we'll see clearly that that is all Donald Trump really cares about. Donald Trump doesn't care about creating manufacturing back in the United States. Donald Trump doesn't really care about creating more jobs from manufacturing in the United States. And later, I will tell you why. How does tariffs actually work? When Donald Trump or anybody says we're throwing a tariff on China, you can't say you're throwing a tariff on China or a tariff on France or a tariff on Australia or anything like that. That makes absolutely no sense. You can say, I am charging a tariff on products from a particular country, so that I can say I'm putting, like what Donald Trump did and what Biden upheld. I am throwing a tariff on electric cars coming from China. That means that when an electric car leaves China and it reaches the American docks, that we say, okay, person who bought that Chinese car, that Chinese electric car, you will have to pay the United States Treasury a tax of X percent. Meaning, if it's 100%, in this case, for a while, he charged 145%. So if the car cost the importer $10,000 to import that car, when that importer goes to bring that car into the country, it has to, the United States government, for that $10,000 car, it has to pay the United States government. What that means is the base price of that car to the importer, as opposed to being $10,000, which is what the China corporation charged him, it will now cost $24,500. All that money goes to the Treasury as a tax. That's what it is. The Treasury, the United States IRS gets that money. The Treasury gets that money. Not the company in China, not the corporation who imported that stuff. The government gets that money. Remember what I said, reasons for tariffs? One of the reasons is a regressive reason, which is only to raise money for the Treasury. Now, when glass bottles that a lot of small companies import, glass bottles, T-shirts, when you put 145 tariffs, that $2 T-shirt now costs you $145. That now costs you over $5, that $2 T-shirt, because of the tariff. Now he has reduced it to 30% from China. that means that $2 t-shirt now costs $2.60. So it goes up. And again, who gets all that money? Not China, but the United States Treasury collects that money. The expectation is that these the rise in price will go directly to the consumer. And you want that rise to go to the consumer, because what you're trying to do with the tariff, you're doing it for the first two purposes I spoke about, which is to help a critical industry or to correct an unfair advantage that another country has. You want those prices to go up in the United States to make it more attractive to create a factory to start making that product. Because of the higher price, they can now make that product for a profit locally in the United States. If that price doesn't go up for the consumer would see no difference and continue to buy the same amount of that product from where? From the foreign country that it buys from. And again, there is no reason for change if the consumer doesn't see an increase in price. That's the reason it is done. So when you hear Donald Trump goes on the phone with Walmart or goes on the phone with Amazon and telling these guys to eat the tariffs, it shows that the reasons he claimed he has the tariffs is a lie. If the tariffs is to encourage manufacturing in the United States, the only way you're going to encourage manufacturing in the United States if the consumer, the end consumer who wants that specific product says, I can't want that specific product anymore because it costs me too much. And that is how tariffs are supposed to work. So contrary to what he says, he should want those prices to go up to stimulate a local American industry. But here's the problem. America is not going to start back building or making t-shirts in mass. It won't. Why? Because all this equipment that makes these t-shirts, most of it now is made overseas. So you'll have to import most of these equipments that make textiles, etc. You know, when I just came to this country, there was a factory in Brenham, Texas that made cloth for, I think it was jeans or something like that. Right there on Main Street in Brenham, Texas. It was a cotton mill, and I worked at that factory pushing these big bales of cotton. I went home white with cotton fibers all over my being. That kind of stuff isn't done in the United States hardly anymore. So if you think America is going to build factories for $3 t-shirts, think again, it's not going to happen. So what it means is that's simply a permanent price increase that has no value in the United States to make its industry better, which then becomes a regressive tax on the average American citizen. What that means is the person in Timbuktu who buys Chinese t-shirts, meaning all the folks who shop at Walmart, that affects them more so than it affects the rich guy who buys some sort of a name brand t-shirt that is made locally, or a name brand t-shirt from Italy or all these other countries that have lower tariffs. Yesterday, I played what David Frum had to say, which was pretty much, tariffs hurt the poor and the middle class more so than the rich, because the middle class get a lot of its products from overseas. The middle class, most of its expenditures is in service, and most of that service does not fall under tariffs. So again, we are being hoodwinked. You are being hoodwinked. And for those, our brothers and sisters in MAGA land who support this president for these tariffs, that claim they're willing for these prices because it's going to bring back manufacturing to the United States and all that kind of stuff, I think the narrative that I just gave you can be easily corroborated, can actually prove that this guy doesn't have your interests at hand. It was just a reason, a way to raise a lot of money for the Treasury. And why does he need to raise a lot of money for the Treasury? He needs to raise a lot of money for the Treasury because the tax cut he wants to give, no Democrat will vote for it, and therefore he cannot get 60 votes in the Senate. So therefore he has to pass the bill via a process called reconciliation, which means it has to be a neutral change to the budget in such a manner that he can give that tax cut without any further changes to income taxes in a particular manner. Again, that's a way to raise a lot of money. And who does the tariff affect the most? It affects the poor and middle class. It affects his own constituency. So folks, please, let's not allow the rhetoric that goes by the president and the failure of the mainstream media to really assess how things really work. Do their job as the fourth estate to let you know exactly how things operate. Let them know. Don't fall for what we call the okie doke. Understand things. Make an informed decision. Make an informed vote. And I tell you something, the person who would lie to you about your own personal economy, how much can they really care about you? Think about that. How much can someone who lies to you, knowing that their policies are materially going to affect the vast majority of their own constituents, how much can that person care for you? And why would some of you be upset when those of us who come out and tell the truth about your Führer is there not to help themselves, but to help you protect yourself from harming yourself and your family because of lies that are being told to you. Now, when this guy lies about how big his hands are, when he lies to you about things that don't have an effect on you, that is one thing. When he lies in a manner that affects your personal economy, that affects the possibility of your kid going to school, that affects the weather, our support for the weather, and whether we will be able to stand the whatever weather events that are going to occur. Whenever he lies about the cuts that he has made that will materially affect your life, whether your kid's going to school, whether the loan that you get, the mortgage that has gone to 7% now, all these things affect you and you pay. And guess who's always the beneficiary of the expensive of what you pay? When the interest rates go up as they are right now, the rich person who is giving you that mortgage makes more money. The interest rates goes up on your credit cards. The rich person who loan you the money on your credit card makes more money and you pay more. Again, when the interest rates go up, our deficit goes up. And who pays it? You do. And who are you paying that interest to? The rich guy who got a tax cut, who loaned us back the money that he got or she got from the tax cuts and loan us back that money to spend for streets and highways and SNAP and all these other things. We constantly get hoodwinked, and we have to start making the decisions and make these decisions being informed. Again, the lies are out there. You can choose to be willfully ignorant, or you can decide, I care too much about my own family to be willfully ignorant. I wanted to clarify that on tariffs.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.